It started in the hospital parking lot, moments after they told us Mom didn't make it. My siblings and I stood huddled around Dad, all of us soaked in grief, and someone, I think it was Emma, whispered something about staying close. Dad clutched our hands, his eyes red and unblinking, and made us promise then and there we'd never drift apart. We said yes. Of course we did. In that moment, it felt like the only thing keeping the pieces of our family from scattering. At first, it even worked. Dad began cooking Sunday dinners, using Mom's handwritten recipes, every herb and spice measured exactly. He'd hum her favorite songs as he stirred the sauce, the smell of rosemary and tomatoes somehow grounding us. We'd gather around the table and laugh at old stories. Those dinners felt like home stitched back together, piece by fragile piece. The loss hurt, but we were surviving, together. But then things changed, subtly at first. Dad added us to a location tracking app. Just so I know you're safe, your mother would want that, he said. Then came the mandatory Saturday night sleepovers. To wake up together like we used to, he insisted, handing out new toothbrushes already labeled with our names. Mike started missing a few dinners for work, so Dad tried to rewrite his resume, find him something with better hours. When I mentioned applying for a job in Seattle, Dad's face froze for a second, like a computer glitch. Then he smiled too wide and said we should all go there someday, as a family. He started canceling things. My gym membership, Emma's flight for a work trip. A waste of money, he told me. Too stressful, he said to her boss, calling in sick on her behalf. We laughed it off at first, tried to believe he meant well, but the walls were closing in. Bedroom doors were removed. Depression thrives in isolation, he said, hanging up curtains instead. Then he did the same to the bathrooms, replacing doors with beaded strands. He bought matching pajamas with GPS sewn into the collars. So I never lose you, he told us, eyes glassy with sincerity. Mike tried skipping a weekend. Dad drove to his girlfriend's apartment at 3 a.m. and ripped off their door with a crowbar. Fixing the squeaky hinges, he texted, along with a photo. Mike's girlfriend broke up with him the next day. Dad helped him move back in, humming Mom's lullaby the whole time. One Saturday, I woke to find movers carrying my bed out. In its place, a giant California king bed for all four of us, like when you were little and scared of storms, Dad said, arranging pillows in age order. That night, he played recordings of Mom's lullabies on loop. I pretended to sleep, trying not to cry. He drilled holes between our walls, calling them connection portals, so we could share dreams. He disconnected our car batteries every Friday night and installed biometric locks that only activated on weekdays. Our phones were locked away all weekend in a timed safe. Emma got a big promotion that required travel. Dad called her boss and claimed she was having psychotic episodes. She was placed on administrative leave. She sobbed while he held her and whispered, "Now you can focus on family." And then came the tunnels. Contractors digging from our apartments to the family home. He showed us blueprints over dinner. By Christmas, we'll never have to be apart. We tried to resist. I looked into changing apartments. Mike threatened to move states, but Dad always found a way. He showed up before we could leave, always knowing, always watching. It was like living under constant surveillance, our lives reduced to monitored movements and approved thoughts. The handprint ritual began next. Every Sunday, we'd press our palms into cement stepping stones in the garden. He measured them obsessively. Any swelling or change, he'd question us for hours, wondering what we were hiding. Mike once refused. That night, Dad sedated his drink and took his handprints while he slept. He cried the whole time, whispering how memories were slipping through his fingers. Then came Mom's death anniversary. Dad seemed serene. He made her favorite meal, set her spot at the table. But something was off. Family photos lined the walls, but our eyes were scratched out. Only Mom's remained, watching. The dining room was unrecognizable. White sheets covered everything like an operating room. Surgical tools lined the china. Cabinet. Sit, he said. I've been taking online classes. You can get certified in anything now. He pulled out a medical cooler, hands trembling. Tonight, we stopped pretending we can live apart. He moved toward Emma first, pressing an anesthesia mask to her face. She screamed. Mike lunged, but the doors were locked tight. Dad showed us a diagram, a star-shaped conjoining of our bodies. Spines fused, shared breath, shared blood. The pain is temporary, but family is forever. We fought, chairs thrown, screams echoing. I hit him with the cast iron, pot still warm from dinner. He went down hard. We tied him up with curtain cords and waited. At 8 a.m., the locks disengaged. Police came. Dad was taken away quietly, humming under his breath. We've started to rebuild. Bedroom doors are back. Emma's flying again. Mike sleeps through the night. I still hear lullabies sometimes in my dreams, but I know they're just echoes. But trauma lingers. I find myself hesitating before answering the phone, scanning rooms for hidden cameras, flinching at sudden noises. Still, we're healing. Slowly. Some promises aren't meant to be kept, especially the ones made in the dark, when your heart can't tell the difference between love and fear. But even after all that, I still visit him. Not often. Once or twice a year. The nurses say he hums through most days, sits near the window scribbling sketches of tunnels and shared spines. He always asks the same question when I leave. Did you bring the others? I never answer. I just smile and say, see you next time, Dad. Then I walk out of the facility, into the light, into a life I'm still learning to live, because promises can be prisons, but they can also be escape plans, if you make the right ones. And I did. We all did. And we're free now. Really free. The control grew quietly, like ivy wrapping around a house, until you looked up and realized you couldn't see the walls anymore. The Sunday dinners turned into full weekend lockdowns. Family time isn't just one day, Dad said. It's a lifestyle. He turned Mom's old craft room into a command center. Blueprints lined the walls, detailed diagrams of our schedules, calorie intake, movement logs from the tracking apps. We'd catch him reviewing the footage from the home cameras for hours, scribbling notes like a detective solving a case. Only the case was us. Emma stopped wearing the pajamas. One morning, she woke up with her old set laid neatly on her pillow, the tracker light blinking. When she tried to refuse again, Dad sat at her bedside all night, humming lullabies until she finally relented. I tried talking to Mike. This is getting bad, I said. He's not grieving. He's unraveling. But Mike just looked tired. What do you want me to do? Move out again and come home to find he's camped outside my building with binoculars? One weekend, we discovered tunnels. Actual tunnels. Dug from our house to each of our apartments. He showed us proudly. So, you always have a way back, even if you don't want to drive. They were reinforced with cement and fitted with lighting. Underground family railways, he called them, like he was guiding a historical tour. The bathrooms were fully deconstructed next. Showers became family hygiene stations with assigned times and communal bathing rules. We used to bathe you, he reminded us when we resisted. There's nothing shameful about care. He introduced emotion audits, nightly group sessions where we were required to share any disruptive feelings or resistance streams. If someone lied or refused, he'd loop in audio from past conversations as evidence. No secrets in a healthy home, he would say. When I got a friend request from an old college roommate, I was thrilled. I responded. 30 minutes later, Dad entered the room. Who's Caleb? He asked. How does he know your nickname? Why is he messaging you at 9:41 p.m.? I hadn't told him about Caleb. I hadn't told anyone, but the cameras, the tracking software, the screen mirroring on our devices, he knew everything. That night, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Caleb on the porch, confused and sweating. Your dad said there was a family emergency, he said. Am I interrupting something? He never texted again. Emma started scratching her arms. Mike stared blankly at the wall most days. I began speaking to myself under my breath just to feel some semblance of privacy. Dad noticed. You're isolating, he said. You need more connection time. He moved his mattress into the living room and declared it the new family sleeping area. Until we're all synced again. Then came the handprints. Every Sunday, he made us press our palms into fresh cement blocks in the backyard, just like when we were kids. Only now, he measured our fingers, checked for swelling or calluses. Tension shows in the hands, he muttered. Mike tried to skip a print day. That evening, he passed out after dinner. I saw Dad slip something into his drink. The next morning, Mike's prints were perfectly aligned, except for the faint purple bruise along his wrist. Emma and I didn't say a word. Dad added audio sleep coaching to our nightly routine. The recordings played messages like, you are safe, you are loved, we are one. Emma once tried to remove her earbuds. She woke to find them taped back in. Mike began researching legal options. He found nothing concrete, no charges that wouldn't be dismissed or countered with claims of mental instability. Dad had our medical records, tax returns, even school essays archived and annotated. The final straw came when he installed proximity alarms. If one of us moved more than 15 feet away from another, a piercing siren would go off. We need to stay within reach, he explained, for emergencies, for each other. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, counting the seconds between Dad's breathing from across the room. Emma's hand found mine under the covers. We didn't squeeze, just held on. We began planning our escape in silence. The change was so subtle at first that we mistook it for love. After Mom passed, Dad clung to us with an urgency we mistook for grief. The first few Sundays were sweet. Home-cooked meals, photo albums, quiet tears shared over casseroles. It was comforting, even healing. But then the invitations turned into demands. You'll be here Sunday, he'd say, with no hint of a question in his voice. At first, we brushed it off. He was hurting. We all were. By month 3, Sundays bled into Saturdays, then Fridays. When I told him I had plans with friends, he said, cancel them. You have a family. The house began to feel smaller, like the walls were moving inwards, slowly choking the oxygen from our lungs. Dad, once warm and silly, grew colder, more methodical. He didn't shout. He orchestrated. We returned one day to find Mom's old craft room gutted. Where her ribbons and brushes once hung were now maps of our apartment layouts, schedules printed. In color-coded blocks, health stats tacked with pins like crime scene evidence. He called it the command center. You're my legacy, he said. You deserve structure. He installed cameras next. Discreet at first, then obvious. At dinner, he'd refer to things we hadn't told him. Emma, that hummus you ate yesterday isn't sitting well, is it? Or, Mike, you skipped breakfast again. That's 2 days in a row. He said it like a doctor, not a father. And we nodded, silent and unnerved. Emma stopped wearing the matching family pajamas after Dad began issuing sleep reports. Emma was restless from 2:10 to 3:30 a.m. High likelihood of emotional unrest, he'd say during breakfast. One morning, her old pajamas were folded neatly on her pillow, the tracker light blinking steadily. When she resisted, he didn't raise his voice. He simply sat beside her bed, humming lullabies from our childhood, his silhouette unnerving in the moonlight. She wore the pajamas the next night. And every night after, I tried speaking to Mike. He's unraveling. I whispered in the hallway. Mike rubbed his eyes. What do you want me to do? Report him? To who? The man's a genius with no criminal record. He'd twist it and make us look unstable. Dad built tunnels next. Yes, real tunnels, dug with his own hands, beginning beneath the basement and snaking underground to our separate apartments. He unveiled them like a magician, beaming. No matter where you go, you'll always have a path home, he said. Isn't that comforting? They were lined with concrete, lit with timed bulbs, and labeled by initials. Mike said it reminded him of an ant farm. Then the bathrooms changed. He removed all the locks and replaced the showers with communal hygiene stations. He constructed a weekly chart, shower rotation, hair washing logs, hygiene checklists. There's no shame in being cared for, he said when we protested. You think it's weird now, but it's love. You'll see that eventually. Emma stopped eating full meals. Mike began sleeping in clothes. I started dreaming of running through a maze with no end. The worst part wasn't the rules. It was the audits. Every night after dinner, we were required to gather in the living room, where Dad would initiate what he called an emotion audit. We had to share our dreams, our fears, our disruptive thoughts. At first, we tried lying. That didn't last. He recorded us constantly. If someone hesitated or contradicted an earlier story, he'd pause, rewind audio from 3 nights ago, and play it aloud. You said you were fine on Tuesday? He'd say, coolly. Why is that different from tonight? I began muttering under my breath when alone, just to feel like some part of me wasn't being monitored. But even that was flagged. You're isolating, he told me. You need more connection. He moved his mattress into the living room, placing it between ours. We'll sleep as one unit now, until the drift fades. Emma clung to me that night under the covers. Her hand didn't shake, but her eyes did. The Caleb incident marked the beginning of the end. A harmless friend request. A forgotten connection. I accepted, hoping to chat like normal people do. 30 minutes later, Dad stormed in with a printed log of our messages. Who's Caleb? He asked. Why is he using your nickname? Why is he contacting you at 9:41 p.m.? I froze. I hadn't told him. But the mirrored devices, the screen captures, the surveillance. He knew everything. An hour later, Caleb was at our doorstep. Your dad called. Said it was an emergency. He said, confused, sweating. We watched him leave. He never messaged. Again. Emma began scratching her arms until they bled. Mike stared blankly at nothing most days. Sometimes he whispered whispered lines from movies under his breath like mantras. He'd gone inward, deeper than we could reach. The cement handprint started next. Every Sunday, he poured fresh cement in the backyard and had us press our hands into it, an echo of our childhood. Only now, he measured finger lengths, scanned for calluses, checked our nails for stress growth. Mike missed one print day. He claimed stomach pain. That night, I watched Dad slip something into his water. He collapsed after dinner. The next morning, his handprints were there, perfectly shaped, except for the faint bruise around his wrist. Emma and I never asked. Dad began whispering in our sleep. Actual recordings played through audio earbuds, soft phrases on repeat. You are safe. You are loved. We are one. Emma tried removing them. She woke with her earbuds duct taped in place. I began dissociating. Sometimes I forgot what day it was. Sometimes I forgot I had ever lived another way. Mike tried researching legal loopholes, but everything could be explained away. Protective father, grief, family traditions. We were adults, yes, but also trapped in a maze with no exit. Dad held our passwords, our records, our phones. He even had old essays we wrote in high school, annotated in red pen like he was grading our lives. The final trigger? Proximity alarms. If we strayed more than 15 feet from each other, a shrieking alarm went off. Emergencies don't wait, he said. We must be reachable, always. That night, we didn't sleep. Emma's hand found mine under the covers again. This time I squeezed, and for the first time, she squeezed back. We planned in whispers, not words, just gestures, blinks, finger taps. I taught Emma a signal for watch out. Mike trained us in lip reading. We tracked Dad's patterns, when he slept deepest, when the cameras cycled off for backup, when the alarms could be temporarily blocked with microwave interference. It took months. Emma stopped scratching. Mike started eating again. I stopped muttering aloud. Instead, I memorized escape routes. Dad noticed. You're healing, he said, pleased. The system works. He didn't realize the silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. The night came in late winter. Wind howled. Dad snored in the living room, earbuds in. Emma retrieved the hidden wire cutters. Mike disabled the hallway alarm panel. We didn't pack. We didn't risk sound. We walked through the tunnel, his railway of love, and emerged into the biting cold. Outside, the air tasted like freedom and fear. We didn't look back. We ran until the signal dropped, until our wrists stopped itching, until our thoughts were our own again. We are still running, but this time it's toward something, never again from someone. We are introduced to the narrator, whose gender is never specified, but is likely a sister to Mike and Emma, describing how things changed slowly after their mother's death. This subtlety is crucial. Like most real-life abusive environments, the control doesn't appear overnight. It starts with tenderness, Sunday dinners, shared memories, tears. It's so believable because it's so normal. When Dad insists on weekly gatherings, nobody protests. It seems like a coping mechanism. But we are warned early on that this urgency isn't just grief. It's the beginning of obsession. The real psychological mastery here is in how the narrator rationalizes it. They want to believe Dad is just mourning. It shows how victims of emotional abuse often participate in their own suppression at first, because love and guilt are powerful motivators. They don't resist until the patterns become undeniable. As Dad's behavior escalates, he begins reclaiming space, first time by taking weekends, then physical rooms, turning their mother's craft room into a command center. The transformation of this space is chilling. A place once associated with creativity and love becomes the headquarters for monitoring and surveillance. Maps, schedules, calorie intake, sleep tracking. The language of care is used. You're my legacy. You deserve structure. But it's all a front. He's replacing relationship with control, warmth with systems. Next come the cameras, and with them, the erosion of privacy. Emma's hummus, Mike's skipped meals, every small detail becomes public knowledge. The children begin to self-monitor, aware that nothing they do goes unnoticed. When Emma rebels, the punishment is deeply manipulative, not violent. He sings lullabies from childhood, reminding her of comfort while erasing her boundaries. The story uses Emma's matching pajamas as a haunting motif, from cozy family memory to an enforced uniform. We begin to understand the true horror. This is not just about control, it's about rewriting identity. The story takes a dramatic turn. When Dad builds tunnels, this literalizes the psychological trap. Where earlier control was emotional and digital, now it's architectural. These tunnels physically connect their homes to his, removing even the illusion of distance or independence. What's terrifying is how rational it sounds. No matter where you go, you'll always have a path home. The line is eerily sweet. This is how real-life abusers operate. They frame dominance as love, necessity, protection. Bathrooms become shared spaces. Hygiene is monitored. Personal schedules are charted. This isn't just about being clean. It's about destroying autonomy. Mike starts sleeping in clothes. Emma stops eating. Their stress responses aren't dramatic. They're internalized. The narrator dreams of mazes with no end. A perfect metaphor for psychological captivity. The emotion audits are a brilliant fictional device. Enforced self-disclosure as compliance. It's confession without religion. Therapy without safety. Surveillance is no longer hidden. It's institutionalized. Dad uses contradiction to trap them. You said you were fine on Tuesday. Why not today? This is gaslighting at scale. This section explores how trauma transforms the siblings. Emma begins scratching until she bleeds. Mike becomes detached, whispering movie quotes. The narrator mutters alone, just to feel unsupervised. The introduction of audio conditioning, earbuds whispering affirmations at night, is especially disturbing. Sleep, the last place of private thought, is now invaded. Emma wakes to find her earbuds duct taped in place, an image both grotesque and subtle. Control has now become identity theft. The children are no longer allowed to think, feel, or dream unmonitored. Dad's use of childhood symbols like handprints in cement or lullabies creates an eerie contrast. Nostalgic traditions turned instruments of control. The use of cement, handprints, is particularly powerful, a permanent symbol of belonging, now used to measure physical and emotional compliance. Caleb's introduction is brief but vital. His mere presence triggers a security response. Dad storms in with logs, screen captures, printed messages. The way he gets Caleb to appear in person shows just how deep his access to their lives goes. This moment marks the shift from fear to strategy. Emma scratches more. Mike goes deeper inward. The narrator finally begins to dissociate, a natural trauma response. The climax is built slowly but purposefully. The proximity Proximity alarms push things past the point of psychological stability. If someone steps too far away, alarms scream. It becomes clear. Dad no longer sees them as people, but as assets, nodes in a network. Emma's small act of resistance.